let's get to an update from the ownership. So Steve Cohen did an interview with the Post recently, and it revealed a little bit more about his management style in his third season owning the team. So we're going to take a closer look at some of the quotes and peel back the curtain a little bit. So I'll have a quote for each of you, and then you can kind of weigh in on them. So Anthony, starting with you, one of the most telling quotes about Cohen's approach was when he said, "When things get really bad, I'm not going to blow up." Anthony, do you think that that's the right approach for this team right now?
Look, I'm probably in the minority here in that I agree with that, because I always agree with that. I feel like, especially when you hire a new front office, when you hire a new management team, you have to give them a little chance and a little space to work. And I understand that Billy Epler's front office hasn't really made it work so far, but they did win 101 games last year. And I do think you have to kind of give him another trade deadline, another season. And then once you get to the end of it, if it really didn't work out the way you wanted, that's maybe after 2 years, the time when you reevaluate and say, is this the direction we want to keep going, or should we go another way? The other part of that, of course, is the on-field manager. And again, I think you kind of have to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Excuse me. This is a team that won 101 games last year. I understand the quibbles with what has gone on so far this year, but this is a veteran manager. This is not some guy that you picked up off the street and you can so easily discard. I would also kind of give him the rest of the season and then you reevaluate. I understand the idea that, maybe you are kind of setting yourself for a lost season that way, but it's on the players. And I've never really been of the school of thought that just changing a manager or just making a firing a coach or doing one of those things for the sake of doing it is really going to light that much of a fire under the players. They know it's not like they're not trying. They know what they need to do. And I understand the counterexamples. Everyone wants to point to the Phillies last year as a counterexample. I think that's more than an exception to the rule. I think teams that are generally going to make the playoffs make it regardless. Those that are going to miss regardless. So yeah, I'm not sure what a bunch of yelling and screaming and ultimately firing people accomplishes at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective to have. And frankly, I agree with you on that, Anthony. Let's get to the next quote. It's a moment in time and it doesn't look good, Cohen says. It looks pretty bad right now, but this is not a bad team. How do you assess that quote, Anthony? And I'll go to Matt.
I mean, I think it's a good roster is what Steve Cohen is saying. And it better be for $375 million. But that's kind of my point, going back to the previous answer about, keeping the status quo as far as management goes, is this is not up to Buck Showalter. This is up to Francisco Lindor and Jeff McNeil and Brandon Nimmo, Pete Alonso. Go on down the line. It's up to Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, these guys who are making huge money. They're the ones that need to be better. And I really find it hard to believe that someone like a Scherzer or a Verlander is going to look up one day and be like, oh, gee, they fired Buck Showalter. I guess I got to pitch better now. Like, no, they're searching for these answers. And that's what it comes down to, is this $375 million roster, this quote unquote good team actually starting to act that way.
Yeah, it's just like the gift that just isn't giving or isn't really giving yet. Matt, do you have any thought on that quote from Cohen saying it looks pretty bad right now, but this is not a bad team?
I think it's easy to say yes, easy to say no, depending on which school of thought you're thinking about. I mean, like Anthony said, they didn't spend all this money and construct this roster over the winter thinking, oh man, we might be pretty bad this year. They're going for it. They're trying to win. They just won 101 games last year too. But Major League Baseball is also a results-oriented business. And right now the results are not good. The hitting has not been up to par. Their team OPS is in the latter half, the lower half of the league, and their pitching has not been good overall, especially the rotation as well. So, I mean, I think two things can be true. I mean, they think that they're capable of better. We pretty much hear them say that almost every night out of the clubhouse after another disappointing loss. But at the same time, right now, yeah, they're playing like a bad team. But we can hope that things get better and things start to turn around. But right now, it's not good. But also at the same time, with Cohen saying he's not going to blow up, not make these wholesale changes, which I agree with Anthony's point of view on that as well, too. If you're not going to do that, though, what else are you going to say? There's really nothing else that you can say in that situation.
Right. It seems like there obviously needs to be a change. It's just in regards to what that change is. And this is just a really long bump in the road that we hope they can get over pretty soon. One last quote from Cohen. And he says, I'm going to rate my success on our ability to develop talent in the farm system, because I think that's how you develop sustainable winners. Anthony, we'll start with you. Are you encouraged by the Mets farm system as it stands right now? And how long do you think it will take for it to be at the level Cohen wants it to be at?
I would say a little. You want a little more out of there. And mostly I'm talking about the pitching side of things because the Mets have, as we've seen this year with Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos coming up. Beatty and Vientos haven't done that much yet, but I still think those are three good players for you long term, or at the very least, three players who can help you out. But pitching wise, you still sit here and you wonder where it comes from. So until that no longer becomes an issue, I can't just have a full-throated support of the farm system and how it has developed. That being said, Cohen's only in his third year of ownership. He's been here for 2.5 years-ish. He's had 2 drafts under his watch. It really probably takes about 5 years, half a decade, to evaluate how a GM, how a scouting director has done in these drafts. So it requires the type of patience that is hard to have, and that certainly many members of the fan base can struggle to have, and rightfully so, over the course of a given year when things are going wrong. But to really evaluate how it has gone, how this mission has gone of creating a self-sustaining unit, self-sustaining organization, you probably need at least another 2-3 years to really have an answer to that.
Yeah, patience is a lot to ask from some New Yorkers, Anthony, but I respect
Myself
it.
too.
Matt, how do you feel about the Mets farm system right now?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say also another 2 to 3 years as well, too, because of that pitching. Like, we've seen these young position players come and get promoted, some of them already making an impact. But out of MLB.com's top 10 Mets prospects, 5 of them are pitchers, but only 2 of them are above single A. So, I mean, it's going to take time to have that kind of depth in the upper minors to feel comfortable pulling guys from double A, triple A, and inserting them into the big leagues. And we've seen, we know that Cohen wants to be like the East Coast version of the Dodgers, and teams like the Astros and the Rays have shown that, consistent development, it takes time, but it reaps benefits as well too. So, I mean, it's going to take at least another 2 to 3 years just solely because of the pitching. And that's why they spent so much money on pitching over the winter as well too.